Good morning. We're live. Welcome to Coffee Time. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and click the bell or you won't get notifications. Today, I don't have a particular topic, just kind of a review of what I've done and what I'm going to do. Last night, for the first time, we had the dating live that was, you had to subscribe to it, pre-register, uh, and it's a excuse me, it was a special link. Hadn't done that before. I didn't know how it was going to work out. David, thank you, appreciate it. Didn't know how it was going to work out. I set it up actually because it appeared it was going to be pretty popular. I set it up as a fundraising project. Why fundraising? Because I need to get that camera, the covert camera, and software, because this YouTube software doesn't work for crap. And so I figured, well, that'll be worth it. It's really good information. So I'll do some fundraising. Uh, you need to understand, I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I'm working with, for the most part, the stuff I began with. So the camera that I use for the talking head, not for this, but when I just sit there and give information and upload it, that camera's still working pretty good. But that's a big Canon with a shotgun microphone. It's not something I can take out in public and walk around with it. It's not stabilized. So that works pretty good, but it's only good for that purpose. I did just get this webcam, and I could see there's a pretty good difference. The color's right. It frames out better. That came from contributions, so thank you for that. Hopefully it makes it a little more watchable. Hopefully you can hear okay. But my GoPro has significant problems. The sound absolutely does not work on it. The stabilizing feature is not functioning. Uh, Also, my stabilizer where I could put my cell phone on, which that's what I use primarily, there's a problem with that internally, and to send it off to get it repaired will cost as much as getting a new one. I'm very surprised because it's a DJI brand, which in my experience has always been very good, and the people that I know that use it do really well. But um, you're gonna get a problem once in a while. So in order to take care of these things, I decided we'll do this as a fundraising. So I would say that also the software for live, it's problematic. There's glitches in it. As a matter of fact, you may or may not have experienced this, but sometimes I have before. Sometimes when you're on a live and you're on the chat and you try to use the chat, it blocks you out. It doesn't block everybody out. There's no rhyme or reason to it. YouTube doesn't have an answer for it. It's just a glitch in their software. Plus, there's no way for me, if I'm explaining something, I can't put any bullet points up. I can't put a photograph here. I can't put a video. I have no way to do that. So there's software to do that. So I can take care of all those things and eliminate the problems with it. Mike, thank you. Appreciate it very much for last night. Um, so that's all about. The good news is it went over really well. I was wondering if I would even get to 30. I had 41 people watch it. The bad news is only seven, well, we'll say eight, contributed to it. So, it didn't go as well as I hoped. But to those that did contribute, and one in particular, and you know who I'm talking about, uh, it was absolutely tremendous. Thank you very much. A huge thank you. And I'll just keep chipping away. We'll get to that point where, we can upgrade what we have, and you'll see better videos.
Now, I want to talk about the bird watching video, the last video I did uh, with Nico, Nico, but he calls him Nico. Very nice guy. His English is quite good, and he's so passionate. I've had a few conversations with him. And that day I did that video, after the camera shut off, we sat there for a couple more hours and we just talked about the Green New Deal, which he's not a fan of, and climate change, and is it man-made, and and we had a really good give and take. We didn't agree on everything, but I really appreciated how level-headed he is. He sees the environment as something. He reminded me of the way Teddy Roosevelt approached this. He sees the environment as critical, crucial, something we can't ever lose. He's in fear that certain species that maybe are never even discovered will go undiscovered because they get lost because of carelessness. He's sincere in his beliefs in that. On the other hand, he thinks it's absolutely ludicrous to view it as though it's well, he has no problem eating a bird. He has no problem eating a deer or eating a hamburger. What his vision is to see a synergy between the needs of humans and the need to keep nature intact, and to find ways to do that. And it was pretty fascinating. And he talked a little bit about it in that interview. So if you haven't watched that interview, I really recommend it. And he's interesting because he is so passionate. He also has these tours that he's doing that are really unique because they're in places that tourists don't go. It's I was actually supposed to. I actually was supposed to. You didn't get the link. Well, 41 people did, but I believe you. Send me an email so I don't forget. Chris, please send me an email so I don't forget, and I'll see if I can find a way to get you to see that. I do think it was quite good, and the feedback was really good. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought that was pretty important. Eric, thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. So not only has he put together these unique tours in places that have beauty that few eyes have ever seen, and I started to say we were supposed to go to a place that I'm actually familiar with near it, but he described if you only go farther, you find this, this, and this. I didn't know that. Nobody knows that, but he walks the countryside like crazy. And we were supposed to go, but his brother ended up with a couple people that he had to take on a tour last minute. He had no car to take me, and you've got to have transportation to get there. So we didn't get to do the interview out in the nature with the wax palms in the background and the cloud forest. But we went over to Parque de la Vida and just sat on the bench, and it was very nice. He's got this amazing coffee farm that has implemented his concept of what sustainable farming should be, to get away from the need of the mega corporate farms, which are so huge, but by their very nature require to use certain amounts of pesticides. It has to work that way, and to reduce it down into a different method. And it was fascinating. And after I turned the camera off, we talked a lot about it. But my biggest question is, well, the U.S. feeds the world by the very nature of the technology and the size of these farms. And if you take that away, aren't you, looking towards starvation? And he had some amazing answers, and he gave me some very specific situations to consider. That it just kind of blew me away. This guy has thought, he's done deep dives into this entire topic, and he lives it and he shares it.
And I've got to go see this coffee farm. I have to see this idea that he has in person. But what's fascinating is that the people on this coffee farm are able to make much more than other coffee farmers of the same size. Uh, it's it seems so obvious once he explained it, but if you get to Colombia, you definitely want to consider hooking up with a guy. He's a bird watching fanatic. As a matter of fact, we had to stop the camera a number of times because he would hear a call and I couldn't get him to talk anymore for the interview. It was like, oh, shiny thing. And he would sit there and go, oh, it's this and this. And he had trouble putting the name of the bird into English, to be honest with you, because he knew the Latin name, he knew it in Spanish, and he's trying to translate it. And he's going, well, it's a gold crowned, oh no, crested. It was kind of funny, but he knows his stuff. And the interruptions, I don't know, it was just very entertaining to me. It's rare to find somebody as passionate about something as he is. Okay, I want to talk a minute about some plans coming up. David, thank you again. I appreciate it. Tomorrow, Monday through Thursday, I'm meeting up with somebody in Manizales. He wants me to show him around, so I'm happy to do that. I'm going to walk him through, some of my favorite places, some things to see, some off the beaten path. He's considering living there. He's considering living here. He's considering a few places, like some of you are, but he wants to see that in particular. So we're meeting up, and we're going to walk through, and I'm going to show him, the good, the bad, the ugly. So you can get a good sense of what it would be like to live there. So 2 or 3 days probably. I don't think I'm going to be able to get back until Thursday. I won't be taking my laptop for some particular reasons, so I won't be able to do the video for Wednesday. So I want to let you know that. But the upside is I will be doing video while I'm there and as I'm walking him through. So I'm going to try to put that together as a walkthrough, what we do, and try to put it in video form and not have it be 3 days long. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I will be taking some video clips. Hopefully they don't corrupt, and hopefully I can get away with it without having problems. It's hit and miss these days. But I want to put together that so when I get back, I can get it edited up and uploaded hopefully by Friday or Saturday. So the Wednesday video will take place then. And of course, we'll still do the coffee time. In November, I'm taking about a week, maybe a day or two more, it depends. I'm meeting up with somebody there in Medellin. He wants me to show him some things. I'm going to go ahead, just kind of, I haven't been there in a while, so I know where to go and things to do, but, things change, so I'm going to go and just kind of get my bearings and refresh myself for a day. But I pretty much, I was going through Google Map and walking through, and things don't look that much different, except there's a bunch of new malls since I was there last. But so I'm going to meet up with him, and we're going to walk around and see the sights. But I won't be with him that whole time, but I'll be doing a number of videos in Medellin while I'm on that trip. I'm also working out some other places that I think you're going to find interesting about Colombia. There's a couple things that I want to do that I think are very interesting that nobody seems to ever do videos of. Maybe there's just not even a lot of people aware of. So I'm trying to put that together and try to get a bunch of these things done before the year's over. The contributions pay for these things, and as they come in, now I'm focused on the camera, but as they have been coming in, I've been setting aside and planning for those. Let's see. Hold on. Looking at my notes there. Oh, another thing I'm working on. I'm having conversation with an agent. It's tough because it takes them forever to respond back to me. I'm trying to get permission. They're a health insurance agent, and they're selling a whole bunch of plans. What I'm trying to set up is to be able to go in and video the process, get more information on different plans firsthand. Uh, they don't seem like they're a real good agent, though. I mean, so I may just throw them away, but I haven't given up on that idea. I know it's important to a lot of you. And so I'm really trying to find ways to get more information out to you on this topic. At least one more video that'll have more specifics on it. But I would advise you in the meantime to look up some of the things. In that last health video I did, I had some screenshots of some web pages. But just go on the internet and call up those companies like EPS Sura. Call up the web page, look through it. If you're using Google browser, it'll translate for you, so it'll all be in English, and you might find some answer to the things you're looking for there. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time, whipping right through. We're going to get to questions here shortly. Okay, next week's coffee time, I'm going to discuss the trip that I had in Monty's house. That'll be after that trip, so I'll be talking about it. But next week's coffee time, I want mostly to be about responding to various comments and emails. I haven't done that in a while. I do it every so often. It seems like every month or so I'll actually sit down and do a half a dozen or more. And some of them have really piled up. Now, I do respond personally to almost everything that I can, but very often they're pretty good, and I would like to give the response to other people, even though they didn't ask the question. So I'm going to do that in next week's coffee time. So if you have anything in particular you want to know about, comment, send me an email or put it in a comment on this video. And next week, I'll get to those comments. I'm going to get to the emails. I'm going to cover as many. They have piled up a little bit, so I'm going to kind of try to reduce them down so, you know, it's not more than a 30-minute marathon. And, you know, try to find the juicy ones, the good ones, and get back to you on them. Okay, so time for questions. Please put 4 question marks before your question, like the one that just did. It's a huge help. I really appreciate it. Last night it was kind of a lifesaver on that one. It got dark. Well, notice on the camera, to those of you that saw the dating live, it actually got dark. We went into the night. Sun was down. The room was poorly lit, but the lighting was as good as this one is right now. Decent lighting. It's because of that new webcam. Where with the laptop, it was horrible. I don't know if you remember, but my black shirt looked almost pink. The colors were askew. It covered a huge range, you know, so I was this little thing down here, and it was this huge open area. It was absolutely terrible. And so wasn't a lot of money, but this Logitech is just amazing. It blows me away. It's 1080p, it's high def. I believe the microphone's pretty good. It sounded pretty good on the playback. So that was a real winner. And again, I hope you guys can appreciate the improvement in quality. It came from you. Okay, question. Have you ever been to Rio Negro, a smaller city outside of Medellin? I have not. Not been there. I was really only in Medellin and some of the communities within Medellin, like Envigado, Belo, or Bejo, a few places like that. I didn't spend a whole lot of time there. Um, I liked it, but if you watch these, you know I'm just not comfortable in big cities. So you don't see me do a lot. Like I've been to Bogota half a dozen times. I think I've done one, maybe two videos in Bogota, and they weren't very much. One was about getting to the embassy and going through the process of uh, getting a replacement passport. I just don't like, I'm not comfortable there. Cali, I finally broke down after being there, I don't know, I would say dozens of times, and did a video on 4 things I don't like about Cali, about why, and it's a nice city, so I don't want to be unfair, and it would be a great place for a lot of people. It's just not my cup of tea. So when I was in Medellin, it was kind of the same. It's like I went in, I saw the sights, stayed a handful of nights. Uh, Somebody was visiting relatives, Colombian relatives that I was with, and as soon as I could get out, I got out, and which is sad because it really is an amazing city. I'm really impressed by it. I think it's just too much crowd, too much people, and I'm not a fan of pollution. So no, never went there. I do have plans in the near future to hit some sites not in Medellin, but near Medellin, and I'm trying to work that out. I just can't speak to it yet. Any thoughts on the town of Hardin? Is it a good place for expats? Expats. Um, Hardin, as in Quindío, you're referring to? It's a stunning place. It's a beautiful place. I have got to get up there. It's not far. I've got to get up there and take a video. I assume that's what you're talking about. It's it's one of the nicest small towns maybe I've ever been in. It's yeah. I would, it's a good place for expats. You mean to visit or to live? Living in the small towns, you just want to be cautious about that, and I don't mean because of safety, but you want to be cautious about living in a small town because unless you're really good with Spanish, it can be problematic. Now, when I was in, I don't want to drag things out too long, but my experience with Colombia goes back almost 20 years, and my ex-wife was Colombian, and so I had years of exposure to the Spanish language, but never learned it for various reasons. I mean, there are reasons, but I'm really not going to go into that. But when I moved to Ecuador 4 years ago, uh, after the first year, door keeps blowing open. After the first year, um, I needed to get out of Cuenca, and so I moved to this small town. It's 2,000 people, and nobody spoke English. And my Spanish at that time was pretty rudimentary. It was pretty crude. It was worse than now. And I was always talking on the videos about I didn't speak Spanish. Well, obviously, I'm alone in this small town of 2,000 people, and I'm living there for a year. So, obviously, I could communicate to the extent that I needed. It's just I was not satisfied with it, and I've just always been frustrated for some reason. I mean, I learned Japanese conversationally in a year. Why is it taking me a lifetime to learn Spanish? So it's a sore subject with me. I'll never be satisfied with the quality of the Spanish that I speak. But I've also traveled a lot and lived in other countries like Japan. So for me, I just roll with it. It doesn't bother me. And if I can't get a word, I can use my hands. I can draw a picture. I'm not shy about that. I'll find some way to get across what I need. But many people are not like that. If you go to a small town, if you're not at least medium quality Spanish, living in a town like that can be pretty problematic unless you're of an independent sort that it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get through it, and it's not gonna bother me. It's not gonna faze me. It can be isolating. Own was isolating. I wanted it to be. I needed that. It was one of the reasons I went out there. Beautiful place. Um, probably my most enjoyable time in Ecuador was out there. And if I could have stayed there, I might still be there as much as I love here, just because my life was so comfortable. But the internet issue, it really was a deal breaker. So I'm not sure what you mean, and you haven't clarified it, Malik, about uh, is it a good place for expats? If you mean for tourism, if you mean just to go visit, hang out for a while, spend a few weeks, a month or so, I absolutely say yes, absolutely. Um, if you mean to live there, then yeah, if you like small towns, it's a great one. Um, it would be fun, but only if you got a pretty good command of the Spanish language. Uh, how much money is needed for the camera? Oh, look at you, Hugh. Look at you whipping out your Spanish. Practica, practica. Uh, the camera itself, including shipping and taxes, is 400 and I just looked it up again. It keeps coming down, which is good. And the cheapest place for me to find, I can buy it here in Colombia, but this is one of those things where I can actually get it from Amazon cheaper, and that usually doesn't happen. It's about, well, we'll say about $430 all inclusive with um, the taxes and the shipping charges and all of that. And the software is a couple $100. And I'm about a third of the way there. So, it's making progress. I'd hope to be about half of the way there. But, that's life. That's how it goes. And maybe, some people that didn't watch, or maybe some people that watched it, maybe they didn't feel it was, valuable, which, I can respect that. I thought it was good, but that doesn't mean anything. It's really, what somebody else thinks. Okay, to live. Makes sense. My Spanish has become much stronger to live in a smaller town. Well, then this is what I would suggest. You might, this, if you can do this, and financially, you can do it as well as just establishing yourself. If you're interested in this area and you're looking at a place like El Jardín, I suggest you go live there for a week or two, and then maybe go down to Pijao and live there for a week or two. Um, if you wanted to check out something a little bit bigger, but not like Armenia, which is not big, but go to Montenegro, where the coffee park is. Uh, go check that out. You can go and live for a week or two in bed and breakfast or hotel hostels pretty inexpensively, and a lot of them you can even get breakfast included, and get a sense of what it's really like. Get up in the morning and walk around and see. After a week or two, if you're really getting bored, then imagine if you've lived there for a year. So that's a real good way to dial it in. And when I did the interview of Lolita, her husband, uh, with a series of 5 who did the 1 year through Central America, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and ended up back here and living not far from where I am, because this was the best they found. That's what they did. As they did that traveling, they didn't just, hit a place for a night. They would go at minimum 2 or 3 nights, but very often a week or 2 weeks to really get the feel, the gist, to see what the vibes were really like when you're seeing those same people every morning when you go out for a walk. That's what I would suggest doing. I mean, you don't really have to hurry to find an apartment and get yourself utilities. And I mean, why do that? It's not, in a lot of places, it'll break the bank for you to stay in a hotel versus rent. It's not like that here. You can afford to do that. You're not going to spend any more. I mean, if you're careful about it, you're not going to spend any more doing that than you would if you just get a place and you're paying rent. Advantages of small towns is here in Armenia, I've told you many times, my rent is dirt cheap. It's maybe a third of what it would be in Medellin. But in these small towns, it could be even cheaper yet. On the other hand, obviously, you have less amenities. And if you want to go to 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 purchase anything of any consequence, you're going to have to make runs to to bigger towns. But that's pretty much true everywhere. So I've talked that to death. I hopefully I answered that question, and I hope that was a good tip for you. Any other questions? What do we got? Yep. Signed up for Expats Armenia Facebook group. Is that different from Grand Colombia group? If yes, how do you access the latter? The Grand Colombia, it's Adventures in Grand Colombia. That's one that I put together. It's got people in it from Ecuador and Colombia, and a few people elsewhere. It's got a few Venezuelans in it. My intent was just to be this part of South America. And what's different is the Armenia is specifically for and about Armenia. I'm in that group. I like that group. I contribute to that group. And a number of the people that are in that group are also in Adventure of Grand Colombia. I will say that I've been very picky about people coming into the group, because one of the things I can't stand about Facebook is how nasty people can get. And so when somebody applies, I go through and I look through their page. I look at comments they've made. I look to see if they go off the bandwagon of hating Trump or loving Trump, or I just don't want any part of that. Where the website is there to talk about our life and adventures and share those things, where we're living here. Some people will go out and walk on Saturday night and show, they sat and had a beer in this beautiful little cafe watching the traffic go by. And so it's really intended for that. It's for sharing your life's adventure. And if you're not here to see and sharing it that way. Whereas Armenia is really more nuts and bolts. Hey, I'm looking for an apartment, such and such. Does anybody know where I can find this and that? And it's more utilitarian, whereas mine is probably more dreamy, if you could put it that way. I think many people say that you need a lot of Spanish to get by, even in a city like Armenia. It depends on the person, honestly. I don't care about that. I mean, when my Spanish was horrible, when I just knew a handful of words, I didn't care, and I managed. I get by, and I try to be considerate of the other person, how frustrating they can be, and if it looks like it's going to be a situation for them, I'll cut it short and I'll deal with whatever it is I have. I understand how frustrating it can be. So, I don't try to inflict that on others. I don't expect them that they should have to learn English. I mean, it was Ecuador. This is Colombia. English isn't the language. So you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain level of patience. You have to have empathy and understanding, and be willing to suffer the consequences once in a while. Maybe you bought something and it was the absolute wrong thing because you didn't express yourself right. That's just part of the package. Yes, it's absolutely better. The more you know, the better it is. And for probably most people, it's a bad idea to go to a place like Armenia or anywhere unless they have a big gringo community. But for whatever percentage are in my camp, in my ball, that's part of the fun. It's part of the adventure. I don't mind it at all. I'm willing to deal with the issues. Malik, thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, I know that's problematic for some. It depends, and if you're not sure how you are, give it a shot, give it a try, go on vacation and see, see how it is, and don't use a crutch. Don't take somebody to translate for you, for a day or two, and intentionally go out to a store and try to buy shampoo and see how it goes for you, see how you feel about it. Um, it's never been an issue for me, and it's actually been part of the fun. Keeps life exciting. How would you compare Manizales to Armenia as a place to live? Manizales is a far better city. Manizales is like that shining city on a hill. It's it's an amazing city. It's one of the nicest mid-sized cities maybe I've ever been. I can go there and feel very comfortable, where I can go to a place like New York City or Bogota or Medellin or Quito, and you know that's oppressive to me. Not a fan. Don't want to beat that to death either. But um, Manizales is just spectacular, particularly at the top of the main mountain. Armenia is not spectacular as far as that goes. It doesn't have these huge international restaurants that are, look like they just stepped out of Belgium or Paris. It doesn't have that. It doesn't have these boutiques with the latest fashion. It's more of a working class city. It's kind of jumbled up, a mishmash. Zoning is not a thing here, obviously, but I personally love it. It's the right size. The way it's laid out, this long, narrow thing, it makes me feel like I'm in a town, not in a city. I love that you've got an entire area like where I live, and I can go out and walk for hours, and it's comfortable, and I love the climate. The climate's even better in Manizales, but it does rain more. So it's kind of, and it's not as, the rain is not as routinely scheduled as here in Armenia. In Armenia, for the most part, I can work around the rain and not have to deal with it. In Manizales, it's kind of like it's almost you know morning, noon, and night, and you just never know. But absolutely a better city. Armenia, well, it has some hills to walk. It's flatter. Manizales is like San Francisco on steroids. I mean, it's got, okay, I'm not exaggerating. There are streets, whatever degree this is, that had this degree. It's kind of crazy. It's like there's a lot of cars that wouldn't have the power to make it up those streets. So, that can be depending on where you live, but you could set your life up to where you never really have to deal with that. You can work around it. So I'm a big fan of Manizales. I love the place. It was nice. It's just, as quirky as I am, the people in Armenia are second to none. They're the nicest people maybe on this planet. I love the comfortable feeling here. The people in Manizales are kind of typical, not bad, very nice people, very friendly people, but they're not like in Armenia. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't want it to be misunderstood. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I just say they're normal, nice people. Armenia is so much more than that. Armenia is people going out of their way to show kindness, and I'm not exaggerating. It's the way it is. It's quite amazing. I love that. Okay, have you tried any of the Chifa's Colombia style Chinese food in Armenia? Might be a fun video someday when you run out of topics. I don't know about running out of topics. Personally, I would find it boring, but yeah, Chifa, it's like basically it's fried rice is what it boils down to. I have tried it here, and there's one block from me that was really good. It's pricey. I don't know why. but it's really good. They don't scrimp at all on any of the, you know, pieces of meat, and I mean it's full of stuff, lots of vegetables. It's a fried rice that is a complete meal. I won't say when I was in Cuenca, it's the same thing there, and it was, but food in general there was always problematic, which is changing. Congratulations, Cuenca. My last year there, a lot of good restaurants were popping up. A lot of chefs, people that went to the U.S. became chefs, returning back to Cuenca. So there's actually a foodie culture going on. But for several years that I lived there, the food was not good, not good at all. Chinese food I had in Medellin was decent, but it didn't taste like Chinese food. Very bland. Well, keep this in mind. I've been to China, and the Chinese food that I ate in China did not taste like Chinese food that I ate in the United States. And because I grew up on the stuff in the United States, I preferred usually the stuff in the United States, although there were some crazy good things. I'm uh, walking down the street and getting a crab in this stand, and over here this pineapple something or other, and over here you can get a chunk of crispy Peking duck. You know, that was pretty crazy, and that was really good, and I like that. But uh, Chinese food in general is not American Chinese food. Colombian or Ecuadorian Chinese food is not American or Chinese. It's something else. It seems like wherever Chinese food goes, it kind of gets its own adoption. In Ecuador, Chinese food tasted like Ecuador food. There really wasn't much difference. Here, it tastes, you know, you can sense that, well, there's China involved in it. You know, it's like you recognize it as being Chinese food, but it is different. You know, sad as it is, I prefer a good Chinese restaurant in the U.S. over in China. I know that's kind of bad to say, but I would not mind speaking Spanish. I'd point to what I wanted to know the prices and be a people watcher. Yeah, that's me. Well, now more so, you know, more involved, but you know, that's how I am. I love to watch people. I like to see what's going on. You learn a lot, and you know, don't be afraid of hand gestures. And today with Google Translate, I mean, most of my life we didn't have that, but today with Google Translate, it's acceptable. Now, I don't, unless it's like a friend, we'll communicate on some involved conversation where it's just quicker to do it that way. But out in public with people, I don't use my Google Translate. I rarely do. Um, I might look before I go just to confirm a word or two because I know what I'm going to be asking. But for the most part, I don't use it because I think I don't know. That's a personal thing. It feels a little disrespectful. Although I will say, if you saw the video where I was in the bus station and I was accosted by the police because I took a picture, and you know he's making me show him my ID and you know acting like all serious, you know, just the facts, man, that kind of thing, man, not ma'am. So um, he pulled out his phone automatically and went to Google Translate. But what he said, I had already understood, and you know, and I'm answering him as he's using Google Translate. So, you know, it's used, it's acceptable, it's okay, it's a pretty good tool. But again, it kind of everybody's not cut that way. There's another guy on YouTube absolutely raves about Manizales. Said it's definitely his favorite city down there. I don't know who that is. I don't know any YouTuber in Manizales. If you mean somebody that went there and somewhere else, I know there's some. It seems like most YouTubers that talk about Colombia or Ecuador or anything like that, just kind of they're mostly passing through. Few days, few months. They're mostly passing through. So I don't know if they're actually living. He lives in Quito, but travels there often. See, now I can't imagine how he could possibly live in Quito. You know, that S-hole fiasco that went on not too long ago. Well, to me, that's what Quito is. Okay, said enough. Keep my opinion to myself. All you Quitoites, I apologize. Most expats say they're going to learn, a large percentage never do, especially in places with lots of other expats. Well, that's true because, you know, they have lots of other expats, so they have their crutches. And their intention is right, and many of them begin and they try, but it's hard. And Spanish is maybe one of the hardest languages. And you know, if you've got 20 minutes, I can prove to you that it's considerably harder than English. I went through this exercise with a friend of mine in Ecuador, and by the time I was done, they completely agreed how much more difficult Spanish is than English. It's a tough language. They say the older you are, the harder it gets to learn. I honestly don't know. It's always been a difficult language for me, which is weird because so many of the words are the same words, but there's so many factors in order to be conversational. Uh, you know, different versions of a word, and to remember all those and how they're placed. It's just, and it's a living language. I mean, the word you use today next year can have a completely different meaning because the culture took that word and turned it into something else. Yes, I know we do that in the United States all the time too, but it's almost compounded here. Here in Colombia, in particular, they have this thing about every word has some sexual innuendo to it. It seems you can, and it's like a minefield. You can say things that you don't intend to say that will be taken out of context and put into a sexual context. And when I was dating, that was a little problematic for me. Um, I learned a lot of words not to say that are just perfectly good, normal words. How many hospitals in Armenia? Beats me. There's two main hospitals, two big, grand, multi-leveled, you know, the size of hospitals in the U.S. There's two that I'm aware of. There's one in the south. There's one a few blocks from me here. But then when I did that video of that small place, and I showed you another one in that video uh, that are medical centers for EPS Sura. How many of those exist? I really don't know. There were two in Armenia just for the insurance company Sura, or to just go and pay. So yeah, I don't know. Let me tell you this though: there's plenty. There's it's especially in the north. You wouldn't believe there are so many doctors and dentists and everything you can imagine constantly, block after block after block. There's heart, what do you call it, cardiologists and everything you can think of. They're all over the place with clinics, and it's like somebody just took a big bag of medical stuff and exploded it over Armenia. Manizales has plenty also. One of the best hospitals is located in Manizales. Uh, you're going to be good in either place when it comes to that. I know a lot of people ask these questions because they have a fear. You know, I get there and I'm going to get, you know, what if I get bad service, or I can't speak the language and they're going to misdiagnose me and sell my kidney to somebody? And, you know, I hear these horror stories. Buckeye, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry so late. Um, it's it isn't like that at all. When you have a health system that's rated higher than most of the countries that you would be coming from, higher than England, higher than Australia, higher than Canada, higher than the United States, it's it's rated like that for a reason. It's is this football Sunday? Are the Buffalo Bills playing today? Go Bills. There's always next year. Okay. So if you have anxieties about healthcare, I will tell you here and now, chill about it. Calm down. It's good. It's all good here. You can get cheap insurance. It's cheap to pay your way. The quality is very good. Are you going to run into a bad doctor? Absolutely. Anywhere on the planet, wherever you're from, you can get a bad doctor. Doesn't mean they're bad doctors. So it's your chances here of getting a good outcome pretty damn good considering, where they rated. And also, uh, I get concerns. I need to take a medicine for this, and you think I'll be able to find it. If it exists, you'll find it. Ecuador, there was a few, not anything I had to deal with, but I talked to a few people that actually had to get some. There was one. There was one. It was like it wasn't lithium, but it was some uh, mental thing that they could not get in Ecuador. There was another person that had internal. Well, it doesn't matter why. So I saw there was a couple cases, but here, if it exists, as a matter of fact, Colombia is a big producer of pharmacy. Out of Bogota, pretty much everything that exists in this world you can get. Plus, you can get, if it's uniquely like still patented, and you can only get it from Pfizer or whoever. Um, they have that here also. So medicine's available. The doctors are highly skilled. The hospitals are highly rated. Whatever you can think of, whether it's mental care, dental care, uh, plastic surgery, whatever it is, it's here. So don't worry about it. Okay, medicine sounds good, but for retired people, they're going to get older, hopefully, and I think the steep hills, it can be a problem, but I can tell you that, and I'm going to show this to the gentleman who's very healthy that I'm going to meet up with. Um, I think he's a runner, a bicyclist, or something like that. He's a weightlifter. So for him, it's not, but he was going to see that you have to go to the places like that. You can live your life for a whole bunch of miles with access to everything without really running into that too much. So um, I hit it up pretty hard in one or two of my videos back when I was there, just because people need to be aware so that they do choose, if they're going to live there, that they choose to live in a place in Manizales that will fit what they're able to do or any future issues. So in other words, you don't really want to live down a hill that's like that and then find out that you're having heart problems and you can't climb it. So I just wanted everybody to be aware what the topography was really like there. But it doesn't mean you have to deal with it. I mean, I was out walking all the time and rarely had to, well, except out of my apartment. I had it, but it was only, I don't know, maybe a few hundred feet. It's no big deal. Okay, basic tourist Spanish is very easy, but then later not so much. Yeah, that's the point. Um, Native Spanish speakers are more apt to correct your pronunciation when English speakers are more likely to let it slide. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's not true. In a lot of cases, what you just said is true. Uh, when I was doing the dating thing, I was having lots of conversations, and I found some that just let it pass. They understood what I was saying, and if I phrased it wrong, I didn't pronounce it real well, they just let it pass. I had others that would try to help me and correct, and once in a while I would run into somebody that would just constantly interrupt and make a big deal out of things that, sometimes my pronunciation isn't exactly right, but you know what? It might be exactly right if I were in a different country, because there's different pronunciation. Like I mentioned a number of times, it's Medellin here, it's Medellin in Ecuador. And, to be correct on all this. So I didn't date her again because she was just freaking annoying. Obviously, she was a control freak. So you run into everything. People are, you know, I will stereotype, I will generalize just to give you a sense of what you're likely to run into, but you never know what you're going to get, really. Oh, Bucks, how about them Cubs? Bills play the Jets. Yep, I knew that. And drugs. What? And drugs. Wait, what I miss? Okay, question. Even new and unique medications that insurance companies in the U.S. aren't covering. Well, I don't know everything there is to know. What I do know is that everything that I've seen in the U.S. I see here. I don't see it's like living in almost a similar country in some ways. Um, there's a huge emphasis here on healthcare, and I can't imagine that there would be a drug that they don't get here. And I don't know of any drugs that, let's say, it's produced in the United States, but they won't sell it to Colombia. I don't know that that even exists. Whether insurance will or won't pay for it in the U.S., it's a whole other thing. The healthcare system in the United States has been almost destroyed, and so there's really not a good comparison. If those drugs exist, there's a pretty damn good chance that you're going to be able to get it here. Um, I thought you did know everything. Well, I know everything that I know. Hate those control freaks. Yeah, and I tend to be one, which is all the more reason I can't be with one, right? Can you imagine? Telling each other what's, I don't know. All right. I think we wore out the questions. It's been an hour, which is what we shoot for. Everybody that contributed today, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Do you recommend air ambulance when living abroad? Huh? Air ambulance? You mean back to the United States? I don't know. If it's something serious, I no. I mean, if the care here is as good as what you're going to get there, then no. In my case, if I have anything serious, I have to go back, but that's because of my military insurance. If it's something minor I can take care of here, they can reimburse it. But if it's major, it really should be done there, unless I can't be transported. If I can be transported, I'm supposed to go back if it's anything serious. How did friend do with her illness? She's still waiting for more tests on it. They told her she got an initial thing, and I really don't want to discuss somebody's thing, but there's further tests being taken. So they told her to get back with them in 15 days. But they eliminated right away. I think the next day. Yeah, it was the next day. The real worry was it a tumor or something life threatening. So beyond that, they gave it 15 days, which I thought was kind of nice that they, the next day they made sure that they ran the test to eliminate what would cause you to panic. It's like, okay, it's not that. So now you can relax. In 15 days, we'll talk to you about where we go from here. I kind of like that. Okay. I'm not sure if I got your air ambulance thing. I think I probably did. All right, that's it for today. Thank you. I won't be seeing you again until next weekend, it looks like. Definitely for coffee time. The rest of it really all depends on how quick I can get edited what I got done and how much of the footage is going to be salvageable, because corruption's been an issue lately. But I'm trying to keep it together and get you the videos with good information. And we may have to go back with me just doing more talking on particular topics for a while. But believe me, I'm trying to get it taken care of as quick as possible. So thank you guys. Appreciate all the support, and I'll see you soon.